Mr. Speaker. It's a hard act to follow. Our excellent officers, President and President-elect. And thank you for your attention, delegates and members that are in attendance. It remains an honor, to serve as CEO of MSMS. You've heard about some of our work over the last year. It's been great. We love being busy, and we've had a lot of things thrown at us. And we've worked very hard on behalf of the physicians of Michigan, but we do face some serious challenges, as you've heard. So I'm going to also give a little overview and put a little more insight onto some of these things. But I just really wanted to start with thanking you all for your membership. The board, the officers, the speaker, president-elect, they're all volunteers, and they're putting in their time, their sweat, their effort on behalf of their fellow physicians. So it's really an honor to work with such a talented group and to have been under Board Chair Bozick now for the last couple of years. Next slide, please. So as you've heard, we face a serious challenge, and that is our membership decline. And you also heard that it's accelerating, and that's true. In the last 2 years, if things hold, we will have seen a 26% membership decline. You heard Dr. Waters remark that we're at the present time at about 3,900 members, down from over 11,000, a couple decades ago. So this is the crux of our challenge. And when I spoke to the House last year, seeing that this has been happening, I kind of made a challenge. I said, if every House member could go out and recruit a new member or two, we could turn this around. And it didn't happen. And I'm not blaming you, House members, because I haven't been able to turn it around, either, because we face some very difficult headwinds. So I want to discuss those a little bit. But the point is, through successive CEOs, presidents, delegates, all the efforts we made, we still continue to lose members, despite the fact that the organization has been very productive in its output on legislative matters, policy matters, CME matters, et cetera. So next slide, please. What we're facing really is a national trend, and it reflects several things: changing physician practice patterns, as you know. You've heard the numbers of the loss of the group memberships. As groups get larger, they're less inclined to pay the fee for membership. You also have more employed physicians. There are a lot of factors, and it also may reflect some generational changes, as younger physicians are less inclined to join organizations like ours. And there seems to be a social distrust of institutions in general, whether it's medical societies or Rotary clubs, or knitting groups. Many of them are struggling for membership. So there are a lot of factors out there. We're not alone in this. All the other state medical societies are facing the same challenge. Next slide, please. And what you've heard is what we've done so far to accommodate the declining revenue. Well, we've cut staff. That is our main, expense, is staff. And you heard how we've gone from a high of 154 staff, and that was 25 years ago, to now having 20 staff, 11 within MSMS. We've also done a bunch of other maneuverings and reshufflings, things that I could do as the CEO, administrative things that we could do. We sold our building, we've outsourced services, we've moved to online communications, we've moved to an online House of Delegates this year to save cost. So we've done the things that we can do administratively, but now we need your help, the House of Delegates. The next set of reforms requires your approval and your leadership. Next slide, please. And again, just despite the smaller staff, and I'm not going to go through all of the things we've done because Dr. Bozick did an excellent job summarizing them, but I would encourage you to look at our new website. Hopefully you've noticed that Metagram also was redesigned, and these things take a lot of work. There's a lot of staff time put into redesigning the website, the Metagram. You heard about our lobbying work. When I came on, we had 3 lobbyists. Now we have 1, Kate Dorsey, and point 1, me. I registered as a lobbyist too. But we're swamped with issues. we don't have just one issue like some groups do. We have a lot, and you heard about some of them. I won't repeat them all, right now, but there's a whole array of them that are keeping us quite busy. And on the policy side, you heard about the Modifier 25 work that we're doing. We also issued a workforce task report. It was just featured in yesterday's Bridge magazine. That was also a lot of work. By the way, it calls for increasing payment for primary care to help address our primary care shortage. You heard we had a successful audit this year. We actually had two because we were randomly selected for an audit of our employee retirement plan. So that was also audited, and that also was clear. You heard about our CME successes. One thing that wasn't mentioned is that last year we received a grant from the state of Michigan to put on health equity and health literacy CME courses. And we've done that. They're online. They're excellent. They help you meet, your licensing requirement. But in addition, it helped our bottom line because last year with that grant, we finished in the black. But that was a one-time thing. And we don't have that this year, and we have the continued declining membership. Hence, our concern for the future. Hence the creation of the restructuring task force, which you heard about. Next slide, please. We did survey our members last year, and just like Chairman Bozick pointed out, most members value highly our CME offerings, our advocacy work, and our policy work. And so that is where our focus has been, and that's what we want to focus on for the future. Next slide, please. So, to stay relevant, this is what physicians want today. They want that advocacy work, education. They also want opportunities to engage, but they're less excited about coming to physical meetings. They have time pressures and they want to be involved, but they want to do it in a way that is efficient with their time, and they want an affordable price point for membership. Next slide, please. So again, we face this decline. So now we need to move on to the next steps. What should we do to address this? Next slide, please. If it continues unabated, and you heard Dr. Waters, the treasurer, Dr. Bozick, pointing out the trend line we're on, further staff reductions, which would really mean a minimal or no lobbying or policy voice, no voice with insurers, and not able to provide the CME. So that's the course we're headed towards, and we need to change direction. Next slide, please. We've already covered this. Next slide, please. So the restructuring task force, looked at these other state models and came up with the 4 proposals, which you've heard. Next slide, please. I'm not going to repeat them all because Dr. Bozick did an excellent overview. I'm going to point out a couple things, though, that I think are interesting and show the relevance of these. And one is, let's go to the next slide. These are the 4 areas that the task force looked at, and here were their recommendations. The House of Delegates converting it to a policy form. We have a very recent example of how that might have served us well this year. And President Gose mentioned it, and it's the Interstate Medical Licensure Compact issue. You may not know it, but our House of Delegates passed a resolution against it in 2015. So our official position is we're opposed to Michigan being involved in the compact. So that was in 2015. But now, 11 years later, many Michigan physicians take advantage of it. We have members that use their Michigan license in the compact. They go to another state to practice, maybe temporary work, and we have physicians from other states coming here. So our practices now rely on it. Yet our position is our official position is against being involved in it. And so in the legislation that originated it was a sunset provision. And the sunset, that means Michigan will step out of it unless that sunset is removed. That occurs next week. So Michigan would be dropping out of the licensure compact next week unless some action is taken. But our hands, MSMS, our position is against it. So I'm getting all kinds of emails and contacts from members and non-members who want us to fight to keep Michigan in the compact. But our position is against it. If we had had an online policy forum that met regularly throughout the year, we could have convened it and we could have reconsidered this position. As is, we have to wait until the House of Delegates. And in fact, we do have a resolution related to this coming up at the House, but it's in April, so it's too late. The sunset will have passed by then. So I give you this as an example of how a policy forum would offer flexibility to re-examine positions, change them, to deal with new issues that come up rather than waiting a whole calendar year. So that would have been very advantageous and would have served us well. We could have participated in that debate and pushed the legislature harder to retain Michigan in the compact, I believe, had we had a policy forum, because I think our members would have then changed their position and supported that. Um, the second item on here, and Dr. Bozick did an excellent job talking about the joint membership requirement. So I'm going to talk about that just a little more nuts and bolts. I'm not going to talk about the other two things, which he's already covered. That's shrinking the board of directors itself and eliminating the judicial commission process. But I do want to talk about the joint membership. Let's go to the next slide. Dr. Bozick mentioned how it's difficult to sell to group practices. And again, we thank you if you're an individual member. You're important too, but our loss of membership, much of it can be attributed to the loss of these groups. And here's what they see. We come in with our dues, which hasn't changed in 20 years. And then we pair it with the county medical society dues, which could range from zero, could be zero if you're in an inactive county, to as high as $400 if you're in a very active county, and anything in between. So the combined dues could be in the range of $900. And when we propose that to a group, 10 physicians, let's say, they don't want to pay $9,000. They're just saying that's too high. They tell me the value proposition is weak. So my job is to sell memberships. I'm the chief salesperson for MSMS, or I should be. And this is difficult because I hear time and again, it's too expensive. The value proposition is weak. And it's not because we've raised our dues. Our dues haven't changed in 20 some years. And when we compare it to the AMA, they look like a better deal. Their dues is $420. The AMA relies mostly on non-dues revenue from renting its CPT codes. That's 95% of its revenue. So they are able to offer big discounts to groups. The discount can be as much as $100 per physician, per member per year, and they offer the free CME like we do. So sometimes we're competing against the AMA when we're trying to sell memberships, as oddly as that seems. But when they line us up together, they tell me the value proposition is weak. Next slide, please. If we could remove that mandatory linkage, we could still offer the county membership. We could still offer MSMS membership. But if they opted for MSMS membership alone, there would be a sudden reduction, in price for them. It would make sales easier because I could tell them, hey, now, it's much more affordable for a group to join MSMS. And for a large group, potentially we could offer a larger discount, and we would have the freedom to do that by not being linked to the counties. It would also offer some potential creative membership sales, like a flat fee, maybe for a large group, or possibly partnering with specialty societies to offer discounts if members renew both simultaneously, for example. So it would open the door for more sales possibilities. And that, to me, that is a key and important, thing. Next slide, please. We understand that this will cause strain and stress potentially for some of the counties. They would have to do their billing on their own. They might not have the software to track members, et cetera, because we've been providing some of that. So recognizing that, we would provide transition assistance through our foundation. We have a foundation that we can give grants from, and we would be able to do that to help counties. We could provide grants for researching billing and marketing operations, or to provide grants for transitions or with software and other items that they might need. Next slide, please. I'm in communication with the other state society CEOs. So I've spoken to states where they've done this, and I've spoken to states where they haven't done it. And just the other day, we had a chat among our CEOs, and one of the states, Hawaii, was asking about this. They're asking about disconnecting from their county, and they were asking for the experience from some of the other states. And this was a comment from one of my colleagues, a state CEO from a state, and he was bemoaning the fact that they have the joint linkage and that he doesn't believe they can remove it. But I'm going to read it because I think it's very telling. He said, "Do I hear members not wanting to renew because they do not believe their counties are active and that they're not getting value from paying $400 or $500 for at most an e-newsletter and an annual dinner alone?" Yes, he says. The bylaws, divergence of interest between state and counties, and generational divide prevent necessary consolidation. We will continue as we are until the future generation replaces the current generation. And he continued, until the older generation leadership fades, I do not see this dual structure going away in our state. So I didn't say that. This is his observation in another state, but I think it's very interesting and it's very telling, his focus on the generational differences, and it speaks to the need that we have to appeal to the younger physicians. You heard how our membership is dominated by older physicians, and he sees this and he speaks to this generational divide. The new generation is they look at things differently than those of us with gray hair do. And so we need to adopt to that and recognize that. So I'm asking you, delegates, please consider these changes. They're difficult. They involve changing the traditions and the comforts, of the past that we're so used to, but they're necessary in order to move forward and to keep MSMS healthy and to keep it a strong voice for physicians. So let's not be that older generation that is standing in the way of the next generation that wants and needs to come in and make use of MSMS. So thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, delegates. And I look forward to seeing you virtually on April 18th.